For Complex News, I'm Pierce Simpson. Prior to this week, it had been some time since we had heard much involving Tekashi 6ix9ine. The omnipresent rapper / troll was a polarizing figure in hip-hop, but this week, he's doing something that many anticipated. He's confessing. This week in New York City, Tekashi 6ix9ine testified about his involvement in a criminal conspiracy case that involves himself and members of the alleged 6ix9ine Bloods. Daniel Hernandez, aka Tekashi, aka 6ix9ine, is the U.S. government's star witness. Back in February, the rapper pled guilty to various charges with the hopes of striking a deal. The trial that took place this week is on behalf of two alleged members of the 9-Trey gangsta blood, Anthony Harv Ellison and Al Jeremiah Nuke Mack. Ellison is charged with kidnapping and robbing Tekashi in July of 2018 and the assault of a different 9-Trey member that October. Mack is being charged with allegations that he was dealing narcotics, specifically Molly and heroin. The trial began on Monday at Manhattan's Thurgood Marshall Courthouse. The first day, both lawyers for the defendants challenged Tekashi's credibility, as our own Complex staff member, Sean Sataro, heard firsthand during the trial. Tekashi was set to testify the following day. The whole thing about a kidnapping is a hoax. It's a Jussie Smollett, if you will. In addition to our own, the testimony has been covered in detail by SDNY reporter Matthew Russell Lee, simply known on Twitter as Inner City Press, who painted a pretty clear picture of Tekashi's intentions upon his arrest back in November of 2018. Mr. Hernandez, where were you born? Bushwick, Brooklyn. How far did you go in school? Like 10th grade. When did you start living in federal custody? When did you start cooperating? The next day, the day after we were taken down. Tekashi stated that he became a member of the 9-Trey Bloods back in November of 2017. Tekashi mentioned that he wasn't initiated but provided financial support to the gang, so in turn they could purchase guns and facilitate other needs. Tekashi even testified what he believes the 9-Trey gang is about. Were you a member of a gang? Yes, the 9-Trey Bloods. What sort of things did 9-Trey do? Robbery, assault, drugs. During the day one testimony on Tuesday, September 17th, Tekashi pointed out both defendants and explained how his earnings from music helped fund the alleged criminal activities of the gang. He also shed light on how his fledgling music career didn't necessarily take shape until he began his affiliation with the 9-Trey Bloods. As Tekashi put it, I got my career, credibility, protection, all the above. The affiliation gained steam at the set of the Gummo music video shoot that included his former manager Shotty, who was recently sentenced to 15 years in prison for his involvement in the organization. The Gummo record was a diss towards his former label mate Trippie Redd, who incidentally found himself being mentioned in governmental testimony during day one of Tekashi's cross-examination, when his alleged affiliation with another New York Blood set was brought up. During day two of his testimony, the inner workings of Tekashi's monetary value to the 9-Trey Bloods became evident. Tekashi testified that if he were to gain $250,000 for various performances and appearances, the set would take around $65,000 of it. At first, I didn't ask any questions. Shotty was like, feed the wolves, feed the homies, support them. Like we saw a little bit on Tuesday during day one, the testimony involving Trippie Redd began to pick up even further during day two on Wednesday. Tekashi testified how he orchestrated a 2017 assault on Trippie Redd. Trippie was with another set of Bloods, so was Casanova. Me and Trippie Redd were signed to the same label. There's a lot of jealousy involved. He was signed first, I later on signed a couple months after. We had a song together, it was successful. Then jealousy, we got in online disputes. We attacked Trippie Redd at this hotel. Tekashi also shed light on the 2018 Yams Day concert brawl at the New York Expo Center in the Bronx, and also described the 2018 LAX fight that was captured on camera. Tekashi's on the record stating that he didn't land any punches during that altercation that ultimately stemmed from members of his entourage openly flirting with another person's girlfriend. The conversation then shifted to fellow New York City artist Casanova, who Tekashi stated he wanted to run down after Casanova's song Set Trippin' came out. Tekashi obviously interpreted that record as a diss, and some members of his inner circle cautioned him about potential retaliations from the Apes, which is allegedly believed to be Casanova's set. The day two testimony continued with the mention of Rap-A-Lot Records, the legendary Texas label that is run by the notorious J. Prince. Allegedly, Rap-A-Lot had issues with Tekashi coming to Texas for South by Southwest and not checking in. That resulted in members allegedly barricading the stage and ultimately set up the scene of what would be a busy spring of 2018 for Tekashi. According to Tekashi, he admitted to filming an April 2018 armed robbery of a Rap-A-Lot artist in Midtown Manhattan. Like we mentioned earlier, he discussed the April Barclay shooting, but in June of 2018, things escalated even further and featured another artist, Chief Keef. Tekashi testified that he ordered the shooting of Keef in June of 2018 in New York City. Day two concluded dramatically with Tekashi giving a description of his own kidnapping that he alleges Anthony Harv Ellison committed. Rather than giving you the exact details of his testimony, SDNY has uncovered the video footage of the alleged carjacking by Anthony Ellison that we're going to show you now.
Run it, nigga. Give me everything, nigga. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get in the car. Get in the car. Get in the car, nigga.
Get in the car, nigga.
Don't stop. Wait. Chill. Where your man at?
Move it back.
Give me your money. Where your money at? Where your money at? Get in the car. Get in the car. All right, get in the car. We gonna shoot you.
No, you think I'm in the car? Get in the car.
While the first 2 days of testimony involving Tekashi gave specific breakdowns of the inner workings of the Treyway organization, day 3 involved more collateral damage, some would say. In fact, Tekashi implicated multiple New York City artists for allegedly having gang ties. For starters, Harlem's Jim Jones was alleged to be a member of the Treyway Bloods, according to Tekashi. Tekashi describes Jones as a retired rapper, which isn't true, considering Jones put out an album this past May, which some argue is one of his best works to date. However, according to a wiretap conversation involving Tekashi's former co-defendant Mel Murda, Jones is overheard allegedly making threats towards 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine was never a gang member. They're going to have to violate Shorty because Shorty is on some bullshit. This phone call allegedly occurred after Tekashi's Breakfast Club interview back in November 2018, where he called Treyway, quote, frauds and dirty bloods. If you remember, that interview came on the heels of Tekashi firing most of his staff. Earlier this year, during an appearance on the Cruise show in Los Angeles, Jim Jones openly called Tekashi a rat and openly expressed his displeasure of the Brooklyn rapper. We're not going to even say what we liked or what we don't like. Screw him. He did some actions that he can't come back from, so his name non-mentionable. You a rat forever. Ain't no coming back from that. After Tekashi implicated Jim Jones during his cross-examination, Cardi B's name also came up in a rather confusing aside when Mac's attorney Alex Huot attempted to suggest that 6ix9ine had followed Cardi B's lead and using an affiliation with the Bloods to advance his career. Tekashi acknowledged that he knew of Cardi's work, but denied that he took inspiration from her. Alex Huot then questioned the rapper on if he knew Cardi B was a member of the Bloods, to which he replied correct. However, according to court documents obtained by Complex, 6ix9ine never once claimed that Cardi was associated with the 9 Trey set, contrary to some initial reports, including our own. Soon after, social media began to react to Tekashi's accusations, leading Cardi B to temporarily deleting her Instagram account. A rep from her label, Atlantic Records, released a statement denying any involvement between her and Treyway. After speaking on Jones and Cardi, Tekashi shifted his focus to what exactly was stolen during his alleged kidnapping back in July of 2018. During the day 3 testimony, Tekashi explained how the jewelry worth approximately $365,000 was stolen. Pieces that included a My Little Pony themed chain that was made with real human hair, a handful of rings, a Rolex, and a jigsaw chain. But that testimony opened the door for Tekashi's credibility to be questioned even more. After the robbery, Tekashi appeared on the Angie Martinez show and stated that the jewelry stolen was worth about $1 million in value, which was proven to be false. When pressed about the discrepancies, Tekashi explained his reasoning. I was humiliated. I constantly bragged that I was untouchable. I'm the king of my city. I didn't want to snitch. I was still close with Shotty. I was still part of the 9 Trey lineup, and there was a code. There was a loyalty involved. As the day 3 testimony of Tekashi continued, attorneys for the co-defendants continued their tactic of questioning Tekashi's credibility, hoping to convince the jury that the alleged kidnapping was all a part of a hoax to sell records. Tekashi's own Instagram posts were used against him when attorney Devereaux Shanique attempted to show a post of 6ix9ine being seen and heard saying, "Somebody please stash my chain so my project can sell more." Shanique also attempted to show a clip of Tekashi jokingly playing dead in the hospital from asthma complications. After days of lengthy testimony, Tekashi was described by our own Sean Sataro, who was on site, as being restless and fidgety. Towards the end of day 3, NYPD officer Moises LeBron was called to the stand to describe Tekashi's mind frame during the immediate aftermath of his alleged kidnapping. Mr. Hernandez came in bleeding from the face and said he got hit with a hard object. The officer even described what Tekashi was saying during his transport to Kings County Hospital. Tekashi was saying, "I thought I was going to die. I thought I was never going to see my daughter again." The driver doing the alleged kidnapping also took the stand to finish day 3 of Tekashi's testimony. Complex spoke with both of the co-defendants' attorneys, who seemed to be optimistic once the testimony concluded. I think that today went well. I think there were many differences between direct examination and cross with respect to the testimony. As this story continues to develop, be sure to keep things locked to Complex News by subscribing to us on YouTube and by visiting complex.com, where we will continue to report on the trial. In the meantime, we always want to see your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments section. Until next time, for Complex News, I'm Pierce Simpson.